Hello, everyone. We as an orientation team decided that along with the first looks, tree source videos, and on airs, we wanted to add another series where we introduce and interview professors from across Stanford's many departments. Here, they'll share a bit about themselves, give personal insight to their careers, teaching experience, and research. We hope you enjoy this new project and learn a bit about your future professors. This is Time Off with the Prof.
Welcome everyone to our first Time Off with the Prof. We have a special guest with you today from the psychology department. Doctor, would you mind saying your name and your pronouns and your favorite spot on campus?
My name is Stephen Roberts, he, him, and my favorite spot on campus would be driving down Palm Drive and just seeing the beautiful scenery and entering campus. It never gets old.
Yeah, Palm Drive is so lovely. I'm so excited for the Frosh when they can move in to see and experience it like we have. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how, growing up, what was, what were things like?
Okay, so I was born and raised in southern Germany, Bamberg, Germany. We moved around a lot, so I've lived in Italy, Texas, New York. I started my college career at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. Go Panthers, very proud of that. Then transferred to New York University, and then was lucky to get into my dream school for graduate school, the University of Michigan, Go Blue, where I got a PhD in psychology, and then came out to Stanford. And for me, the question was how was growing up in general?
Yeah, just memorable moments.
Yeah, growing up was fun. Life has its ups and downs, not as hard as growing up during a global pandemic, but I had my own struggles. But overall, growing up was fun.
And so what led you to be involved with or interested in psychology?
I think I've always been interested in psychology. I specifically have always been interested in race and how race shapes people's interactions and their positions in life. I'm from a multiracial background, and I've had the honor of living in a variety of places: Texas, Italy, Germany, Michigan. And it's always just been fascinating to me how race, how people think about race differently across different contexts. So I've always had that broader interest. And then specifically what got me interested in psychology, I'll never forget, I was an undergrad at NYU in a class on the history of education, and this guy came in, Joshua Aronson, to give a talk on stereotype threat. So I'm going to tell you about this psychologist from Stanford. Name is Claude Steele, and he went and he explained this process of stereotype threat, which is broadly worrying that you're going to be stereotyped in an environment, and that worry interferes with your actual academic performance. And that phenomenon really explained a lot to me about my own personal life, about something that I experienced on a daily basis at NYU. So it was the first time that this kind of broad psychological concept became so real to me personally and really helped me understand something about myself, that it was just a really magical, transformative moment, and I wanted to kind of be involved with that as closely as possible.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. And obviously that's become your passion in life's work. So obviously you teach some courses like Psych 1, where I had you. But beyond teaching, quickly, what are other projects you're involved with on campus or in general?
So on campus, I do a lot of work in my research lab, where we do research on, the development and the expression of different biases in the domain of race, also in the domain of gender. We're really interested, especially in how young children learn and acquire biases and how can we kind of correct them. And we're also really interested in documenting biases or inequalities across different institutions. For instance, at the church level, at the research level, we do work in those spaces. I'm also engaged in broader initiatives on campus. In today's climate, we've been multiple institutions have been rethinking what our buildings are named after, the statues we uphold. So I've had the honor of being involved in a renaming committee here at Stanford, specifically in the psychology department, of thinking about the spaces and who they're named after, and renaming them to be more inclusive of our students, of the diversity of our student body.
And so Victoria told us that you teach Psych 1. So what do you cover in Psych 1, or why should a frosh, I guess, consider taking Psych 1? What would you say to that?
Well, and what we try to convey in the first day of Psych 1, that Psych 1 is a class that everyone should take, because, I'm biased. I think that psychology affects every aspect of life on the planet. We humans are thinking things, and we go and we lead organizations, we create new initiatives, we interact with people. It all relates back to us. Maybe psychology is a very self-centered, human-oriented field, but we're a self-oriented species. So I think that everyone should take Psych 1, because it really is relevant to everything, and we cover everything. We cover many things in psychology, from the smallest level, from the neurons in our brains and glia cells, to bigger social organizations across history and how they shape human behavior. So students who come into Psych 1, they get a flavor for psychology and human behavior at multiple levels. And hopefully that on one of those levels will pique some kind of interest that they could pursue if they want to go into like neuroscience or social psychology, cognitive psychology, developmental psychology.
Absolutely. I could not agree more about how foundational Psych 1 is, and applicable to pretty much every path and every major. Quickly, just beyond Psych 1, do you teach any other courses, and particularly are any of those frosh friendly?
Yeah, so I teach the most frosh friendly class that I teach is a freshman seminar called How to Make a Racist. And it is an intense class. It's my, Psych 1, I love Psych 1, and it has a special place in my heart, but the freshman seminar, that's my baby and my brainchild, so that has a very special place for me. It's a freshman seminar where students come in, and it's really about understanding the development of racial biases, not only in society, but also in ourselves. And it's really a 10-week exploration of racism in our society, but also in our own minds and brains. And it's a pretty intense class. I think that students learn a lot about themselves and are transformed in very important ways. And it's an emotional, theory-driven, great class. And the only thing that I do not like about the class is that I wish that more students could enter it, but there are limited spots. But yeah, so How to Make a Racist, apply for it if you can.
Yeah, and I've heard great things about that class.
Good.
And so this summer we have a 3-book program that's centered around grit and character. And so we would just like to know, so in your opinion, in your perspective, what is grit? And then also, who is the grittiest person you know?
Okay, in my perspective, grit is perhaps the willingness or the ability to persevere through obstacles. And I don't think that grit is an inborn trait that you either have or you don't. It's something that can be developed and nourished. So it's a learned skill to persevere through obstacles. In my life, the grittiest person I know is perhaps my mother. Say I'm biased, I love my mom. My mom has experienced some pretty intense, unimaginable obstacles in her life, but she continues to laugh harder than anyone I know, and persevere more than anyone I know. So I would say the grittiest person is my mom.
So lovely. And in spirit of grit and perseverance in general, what advice might you have for incoming frosh, especially now, who might have a myriad of concerns on how to handle college in general?
My broad advice would be to have fun and enjoy yourself. You're smart, you're capable, you're going to be successful. That's already, a given. And I think that I often see students come in and get so just overwhelmed and obsessed by needing to know every single detail in their textbook and needing to get an A+++ in every single class, to the point where they actually don't enjoy the process. And when I think back of my undergrad career, I don't remember what grades I got in my classes or in my exams, but I do remember the memories that I had and the friendships that I formed. And that's what you'll take with you in the long run. So come in and enjoy yourself. It's going to be hard given the current state of the world, but not impossible. So just enjoy yourself and try to enjoy the ride.
And one concern that a lot of Frosh have is they're concerned about the transition to like online learning. So do you have any like recommendations or any advice for maximizing learning in an online environment, maybe from your observations?
I think if students have any advice for me on how to maximize my online learning, I'll take it. I think we're learning about it in real time. But, you know, for instance, on the Psych 1 team, we meet weekly regularly, and we're thinking through all the nuanced ways in which we could maximize learning for both the students, the TAs, even the professors. I would say the best advice that I could give at this point is to set boundaries. It's okay to take breaks. Zoom fatigue is real. It's tiring. It's exhausting. Take breaks. Feel free to tell your professors if you are being overwhelmed by Zoom fatigue. I think that, you know, students are placed in a tough position where you're given a lot of content through a specific format that's tiring. So feel free to take breaks, and feel free to let other people know that you need breaks. If a student came up to me and told me that they need a break or that they're experiencing fatigue, that's something that I would take to heart, and I would adjust the class accordingly. So feel free to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully hearing it from you, it'll really be cemented that it is okay to reach out and ask for help.
Yeah.
And that was kind of all of what we had lined up for this quick conversation. Again, the point was just to give Frosh an insight into, you know, you as a professor, and a little bit in, you know, the psych department and kind of what those faces look like. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon in the psych department.
Oh yeah, no, thank you both for doing this. I hope it works out. Keep it up, and it's very much appreciated by me, by the Stanford faculty, by our community. We need more people to do this stuff, seriously. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Stephen, and we hope to see you in the fall.